We also tell you that the Accord Party says the November 8, 2025 Anambra governorship election will serve as the first major test of Professor Joash Amupitan's leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission. In a statement signed by Maxwell Mbundem, the party's national chairman, Accord congratulated Professor Amupitan on his swearing-in by President Bola Tinubu following his confirmation by the Council of State and the National Assembly. The party urged him to uphold transparency, fairness and courage in conducting elections as public trust in the process remains fragile. Accord noted that the Anambra poll will measure INEC's readiness and influence confidence in future elections. Additionally, the coalition of united political parties also said Amupitan's immediate challenge is rebuilding public faith in the Electoral Commission. And now to discuss this, we're joined by our political analyst, Jide Ojo. Mr. Ojo, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
It's my pleasure, Lincoln. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir. So do you see the coming Anambra gubernatorial election as a litmus test for the newly appointed INEC chairman?
Somewhat. But election planning takes a very long time, and to my own mind, all preparations will have been made long before the inauguration of the new INEC chairman. He has barely 2 weeks. What I believe will happen to Professor Amupitan is that he will use the Anambra off-cycle governorship election as a learning curve to understand the intricacies of electoral planning. It will be updated about what has been done, what has not been done, what remains to be done. And sincerely, he has no role, particularly beyond just attending some of the ceremonial events like stakeholder meeting, like the signing of peace accord, where he will just give speeches. The conduct of the Anambra governorship election rests solely on the resident electoral commissioner, and she will be directly in charge with the support from headquarters and some field offices. I'm sure there will be resident electoral commissioners across some states that will be deployed to support her. She's a female. I met her recently. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at it from a broader scale, Jide. Now, judging by the manner of appointment, which has not been different from previous ways of appointing an INEC head anyway, can Amupitan restore people's confidence in INEC and restore INEC's credibility?
Well, that is a very cagey question. I think we need to be very careful about the narrative of opposition parties, who will always stop at nothing to discredit election once it doesn't go their way. And so when you say restore INEC's credibility, INEC has been a credible organization. There is no perfect election anywhere in the world, and INEC as an umpire does its level best. Of course, even when you look at our electoral laws, it gives room for certain acts of indiscretions and the fact that things may not be 100% okay. That's why there is a section of the Electoral 2022 that says election shall not be nullified unless there is substantial non-compliance with the provision of the law. So that is to tell you that they are not looking for 100%. That, for instance, there are 6,000 plus polling units in Anambra. If there are issues with maybe 300, 250 polling units, you cannot use that as a basis to say, oh, this INEC has rigged this election. No. It's based on preponderance of issues. But coming back to answering your question,
okay.
Every election is a learning curve. And as I said in my column in the Punch newspaper last week, where I was also charging Professor Amupitan, I said, look, he needs to have the support of the actors and the stakeholders for him to make any meaningful impact. The reason being that INEC election is a multi-stakeholder enterprise, and you cannot solely shoulder it without the support of other groups. For instance, when there are issues around election violence and vote buying, or what you call vote trading, is it INEC's responsibility to deal with that? It's the security agencies. When there are issues with the nomination of candidates, is it INEC that will deal with that? It is the judiciary. If there are issues with electoral law, is it INEC that you blame, or you blame the National Assembly, who has done a shoddy job? So these are just top of my head, and that's why when the political parties and the candidates made up their minds to undermine the electoral process, there is little or nothing the electoral management body can do beyond its capacity.
Okay, so why is it that an election cannot be 100% successful? I mean, you look at election in Senegal, in Ghana, in South Africa, where there was even a runoff, and you would agree with me to a larger extent that it was said, adjudged to be credible by international observers. There were no issues of glitches, and it shows some sort of a reflection of the choice of the people without any sort of, encumbrance. So if you have 4 years to prepare for a general election, why can't you score 100% in terms of your delivery?
Nico, I believe you went to school. Why is it that your teachers and lecturers will award you 75% in a course and we still say that you did excellently well?
I didn't spend 4 years. I didn't spend 4 years studying that course. I didn't spend 4 years studying it.
No, wait. You may not study 4 years. But you use a whole 3 months listening to lecture, then you are examined, and then you scored 75 over 100, and yet they say you scored excellent. The point is that there is nowhere in the world, even in Senegal, South Africa, I've observed the election across the divides. I've been to several African countries, Uganda, Egypt, Ghana, to observe election. I've been to US to observe election. And I will tell you for free that none of those elections you are citing were foolproof. And that's why the law will always say that unless that the election is deeply flawed, and if an election is deeply flawed, that's why the judiciary is given the power to review, which is called the election dispute resolution. So that is why it's a multi-stakeholder enterprise. Let me give you one beautiful instance. When INEC conducted the 2023 election, it declared the APC candidate winner in Kogi Central Senatorial District. Then Natasha went to court, and the court restored her mandate. That is why it's a multi-stakeholder enterprise. And in any event, when you look at the totality of elections that have been nullified as a result of INEC's faults or flaws, they are just less than 10% of the total elections conducted. So on what basis will you say that the elections so far, we have had several electoral cycles, mind you. You cannot argue and convince me as an expert in this field to say that our previous elections have not been credible. The bottom line is that yes, there could be some flaws here and there, which is normal with every human endeavor. This year, you have the UTME that recorded its own glitch. Would you say that the JAMB has been making a poor show of conducting election? When you use technology, technology itself is not foolproof. Technology can fail you at any time. So you cannot single out the issue of the presidential election uploading of results in 2023 as a basis to mark and benchmark the performance of the electoral management body.
All right.
And I would disagree with you on that count.
All right. Thank you so much, Jide Ojo, for sharing your thoughts with us. I just needed to put you on that hot seat. It was nice talking to you.